Well, welcome everybody. This is Tanisha Carroll with Mommy and Me on assignment. And I am excited today to have a special guest. But before I introduce her, I just want to thank you for connecting with Mommy and Me and for being a part of this group. And this group is focused on moms of tween daughters, and we're here to rethink madness. Oftentimes, it is madness trying to understand our tweens, what's going on in their heads, whether they're listening, whether they are doing what we want them to do. And so we have to readdress that and reformulate that thinking so that we can all get on one accord. And in Mommy and Me on assignment, we use music and music activities to help us to address the needs of our tweens and us as moms. And so if it is important to you to have a positive relationship with your daughter, then this is the place for you. And this conversation today that we're going to have is you haven't heard this before. I can guarantee you that you aren't necessarily having these conversations in this way with your daughters and with your girlfriends, to be honest. So today I want to welcome to Mommy and Me on assignment. I want to welcome Miss Kimberly Yhap. She is a registered nurse and certified professional speaker, author, and menstrual and hormonal wellness coach, and fertility care practitioner. Wow. And she has over 10 years of experience helping women who struggle with irregular periods, painful cycles, PMS, infertility, and a host of other things. Like she is has an amazing expertise. And the fact that she is a registered nurse helps you to understand that she has put in the work to understand. And so Kimberly has also created the Growing Girls event and menstrual cycle tracker for moms and tween daughters to discuss what is happening in their bodies. Her vision is to create a global movement where women embrace, understand, and appreciate their God given bodies, overcome menstrual and fertility challenges, and thrive in every area of their life. And so we're glad to have Kimberly with us. I'm going to share with you in a little while just the information about her book as well. And so welcome, Kimberly.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for having me on Mommy and Me. I looked forward for this time for years. I'm gonna tell you
Yes.
that. I know, divine connection, and here we are. And I'm
Yes.
so happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you, and I'm like really excited about this conversation. Kimberly and I met several years ago in a coaching program, and we kind of have gone back and forth like we need to do something together, and so it is definitely the timing of the Lord that it would come at this time. And so I'm excited. So today, and over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to share with you just some information, and Kimberly's going to share with you some information that um, daughters and moms need to know as it relates to their menstrual cycle. Okay, so explain to us, starting off, just what is the menstrual cycle? Because you and I talked about how I believe, and I've talked to some women, and when I mentioned this, they're like, "Oh, really?" I mean, these grown women like me, our age, and I say there's a difference between your cycle and your period, and they're like, "Oh." And so, talk to us about that in general, and then tell us some things that moms need to know as they teach their daughters about the menstrual cycle.
All right. I'm glad that you talked about that. What is the menstrual cycle? Because people just kind of think that, oh, it's just a period. No, it is a cycle. There is a beginning and there is an end. And one of the most important things about the menstrual cycle is not the period, it's ovulation. And most of the time, our focus is on what we can see, that
Mhm.
red flow. But the thing that we can't see is ovulation. And ovulation determines what kind of a period we're going to have, if we have a period at all.
Mhm.
And so it's so important to understand and to refocus what is important. Now, yes, I really want you to make sure that you're seeing that red flow. And there are different characteristics about the red flow that is important as well. And that could tell us what's going on with ovulation. And the menstrual cycle doesn't originate in the pelvis, it originates in the brain. The brain is the place that starts the cycle going. The brain is the place that dictates how and when your ovaries are going to ovulate, when you're going to ovulate. So, the most important part of the menstrual cycle, guess what? It's in your brain. And so, yes, one of the things we talked about is that a menstrual cycle is made up of different phases, and so there's that whole shedding phase, which we know about, which is the blood flow or the period or the time of the month or ant flow or red flow. I mean, like whatever they call it. But then there is also the part of the cycle where their brain tells the body to start that selection process. And the selection process is what leads us on to ovulation. Now, there's special detectors about ovulation that shows up. And for many of us women, for years, we didn't know what it was. And we need to make sure we are able to empower our daughters. But make sure you find it out for yourself first before we get to that point. So there is the follicular phase, which actually begins on the first day of the period, as well until ovulation. And then there is the luteal phase. Now, after ovulation, there is this phase of the cycle that is equally important to the first phase of the cycle, for the phase before ovulation. And so this whole cycle, and for us women, our life, it goes through the cycle over and over again. And so whatever happens in our life, it is happening at some part of that cycle. And so this is going to be important for us and for our moms when our daughters are complaining of some things that we like physical things that we know, okay, what part of the cycle are you in? And so the menstrual cycle is an important event for us women. It starts with ovulation, and guess what? It originates in the brain.
Wow. The fact that it originates in the brain, I've never heard anyone say that. Never. And we definitely forget about the ovulation. We know it's there, but I don't know that women understand that that is included in the menstrual cycle. That is so important. And ladies, I hope that you are getting this information, because if you are not having a cycle, if you are not having a flow, I should say, if you're not having that, that means there's something going on in your body and possibly in your brain, right? Because I know oftentimes people who are very stressed out may not have a flow.
That's right.
People, depending on your eating habits, you may not have a flow. And
That's
that
right.
is definitely an emotional and mental part of our lives. But we didn't necessarily make the connection or figure out how to make the adjustment.
That's right.
So tell me, as our tweens, so tweens are between 8 years old and 12 years old.
That's right.
And uh, some get their cycles on the younger end of that, the 8 and the 10. I think I was about 10 or 11 when I got mine, whereas my daughter, she was 14 when she got hers. And I believe my mother was even older, maybe like 16 or 17.
Ooh.
Um, yeah, yeah. And so how can we as moms help our daughters and teach them, what should that initial conversation, those early conversations, because I believe I had a few conversations, the first one was like, ew, mom.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I hear you. And
Mhm,
I know the initial conversations. And I think for those of us right now who have little girls, those for the SK, JKs and SKs, we want you to start it now. So that when we reach to, what, when they're getting older, before they're going to say the EU, that we started to build upon it, build
mhm,
information blocks upon it. And I think for moms, for ourselves, we need to go back to the beginning and to find out and understand the purpose for us being created as women. And I think
mhm,
one of the things is that God has created us, one, to glorify Him. We were beautifully created, we are created intricately to glorify the Father. Whatsoever we do, whatever we eat, we drink, we look after our bodies, and God and Father forgive us. Sometimes we mess up on our bodies and we don't glorify you as we should. But I think we have to know that we are created to glorify God in our bodies. We're created with purpose. And the purpose, one of the purposes is one, because God wanted us to be to be partner with Him to multiply and replenish the earth. He wanted us to get involved in this whole equation with Him to do this. And so, of course, He made us as partners to a great man to be able to accomplish that when the time is right. But one of the things I wanted to say, how we can, so let our daughters know that God made you for a reason, and it's for beautiful. He's made you beautiful. He's made you special. Everything about you, God liked when He made you. The next thing I want us to capitalize on, these little kids, they love puppies and kittens and all of those little nice furry. Listen, let's also get that in the conversation. Guess what? You see that lovely little cute puppy and that lovely little cute, guess what?
mhm.
God loves that just as well. And they're partnering and they're doing the whole multiplication part as well, right? And there is a
Right.
purpose for those little puppies. You know what? And God cares about them from that age. And we have to start to say, God cares about every little baby, right? And even before
Mhm.
we can see a baby, God cares. There was a particular verse in Job that says that, God said to Job, do you know who is there when that mountain goat is giving birth to that baby? I am there. And so we need to let them know that every aspect of our lives, God is there. And so how I continue this conversation is to also talk about body parts. Your
Mhm.
hands, your nose, the things that you can see that, and they all have a purpose. And then there's some parts of your body that you can't see. You can't see your brain, but guess what? You know that it's working. You can't see
Okay.
your heart, but guess what? You know that it's working.
Right.
You can't see different parts of your body, but you know that it's working. And God has made all of those parts special. But for us girls, He made something else that's special. So you see, He's made us with this particular part of our body that is all tucked away at the bottom there that you can't see. But in there, there are two little eggs like structures, we call them ovaries, and it's attached to a house that we call a uterus or a womb. And that's where you were, before for 9 months where we were born. And guess what? For us girls, that part of our body is very quiet. It's asleep for a reason and for a while. And there's going to be a point in time when God is going to want us to open up or to awaken that body part of ours. Now, a couple
Mhm.
of things that are happening back then with that body part is that when it starts to wake up, there is a special messenger, like it's called a hormone, but it's like a text message because we are accustomed to text messages or emails right now. And
Right.
so there's messages going from the brain and it's going to this special part in, the ovaries, and it's starting to send messages. And it
Mm.
sends messages a couple of places. It sends a message to our brains so that we can think well and be bright students at school, So listen, if we're not focusing, it could be a part that things are not going too well with what's going on in our body, right?
Wow.
And so our ovaries are sending hormones that also helps with our thinking capacity. Not, probably that's the reason why our girls are much sharper than boys. And okay, I'm getting aside the point. Um, but but there's information goes to our brain, it goes to our bones. But I know we say to drink lots of to drink milk. Okay, yeah, drink your milk. But listen, girls, the body has a way to help us to make strong bones, and that is through ovulation. And so
Wow.
we start to talk about the heart and heart, how the body is that ovulation is helping our hearts to grow. So those hormones are helping our hearts to be strong. It's helping with our hair, our nails. And how do you think we get those long nails as teenage girls? Guess what? That's all a part of the process. We don't have to have those fake nails, you know. Lots of the fake nails came apart because guess what? Probably things have gone wrong in our body. But
Mm.
just think about all of these hormones. And so as we start to tell them first about the benefits of a woman being created the way she is and the benefits of all of those hormones, guess by the time she's in puberty, so by the time she's that young adult, God has been helping her to build her body to maturity for when she has
Mm.
been able to be ready to have a baby. Now, the thing about the when we talk about talking to the girls, our JK girls, because they're going to school and they need to be able to clean themselves if they have a bowel
Yeah.
movement. And so this is where the conversation need to happen when we start to teach them how to wipe. You're wiping from the
Mm.
front to the back because you know what? We want to make sure you're clean after you have you pass urine, but we also want to make sure that you're not creating infection by bringing stool, you know, to the front.
Right.
We want you to make sure that you're clean after you poo too, because that's going to be important. It's important. We don't want you smelling in the classroom if you don't clean
Mhm.
yourself quite well. So just the hygiene part is to start a part to start with. But also we want them to know that, you know, as you wipe, sometimes, you know, you may see, like if you take multivitamins, you may see the urine be a little bit more yellow. Or sometimes if you eat beets, you know, you may notice that you go to the toilet and it's like a bit red. Don't be afraid. It's just probably the
Think
beets.
you dying.
But I think one of the things we want them to know, however, that as you wipe, as you get older, she gets into that, she's out of JK, she's now in that, you know, grade, I think 3, 4, when she's starting to see something on her underwear. She may be starting to see some white stuff on her underwear.
Mm.
It could be one of two things. It could be something we call vaginal skin cells. Like all of our bodies, we have cells in our bodies, and guess what? We shed them, you know, after a while. And so for girls as well, for us, our vaginal wall has cells, and we can also shed those as well. But then there's a special flow that may start to show up a bit more at certain times, you know, not every day, but we may start to see this at certain times. And
Mhm.
we want her to begin to understand that, guess what? That may be signs that your ovaries is starting to work. And
Mm.
it's starting to send a special hormone to the bottom part of that nice little home that you have. And it's causing this fluid to come. It's like a practice run that's going on in your body
Yeah.
because God has now, at this point in time, we're preparing for the body's just doing practice runs to see, to make sure that that organ is working well. It's
Mhm.
like, you know, and then so we get a little indication that it's kind of starting to work when we start to see this white flow. But then what happens is that in the house, lots of construction is going on in the house there, right? And so we're, you know, we're putting some blood cells or some blood vessels, some hoses here. And because it's going to be making sure that this particular place is having lots of oxygen, lots of blood to make sure it's in a healthy environment. But guess what? After a while, sometimes every month, what happens is there is a cleanup, right? Just like how you have a
Mm.
house that you make sure you sweep the house regularly to make sure that we get rid of dust. So right now in the human body, in that, you know, that house for babies or in that house within your tummy where you grew up, right? You know what? I had to make sure that that house was cleaned out every month. And so when we clean out that house every month, a couple of things happen. We kind of have a remember we talked about the blood supply that was going there? Yeah, we may see a little bit of that come out at the end of the month, and that's what we call our period, right? And it's just that a process has happened inside
Mhm.
there, and yeah, that may be our period. So it's not, because I don't want to start the conversation with that, oh, this is for you to have babies first.
Mhm.
I want to start the
Good.
conversation that, you know what, this here is beneficial for the whole body. And this is the reason why you have it. And you know what, in the end, when you're mature enough, yes, it's also why we have the channel through which we have babies.
Wow. Y'all, I hope that y'all are taking notes. I hope that you are paying attention. I love that you said start the conversation with the value that these little girls bring to the earth, that this is why God put you here. He loves you. You're special, and he has given you a special purpose and responsibility in the earth, and he cares about you and your body.
Yes.
That's so good. And to begin with, the hygiene in mind, that's definitely something that I started with my daughter, is paying very close attention to hygiene. And then the benefits that this cycle brings to the entire body. It's not just about the end is the flow, but it brings an entire benefit to your whole body. Well, listen, this
Yeah.
has been a great start to our series. We are going to be having talking about this for let's see, 3 more times, so at least 4 videos about this, the importance of the menstrual cycle and how we need to help our young girls, help our daughters to live with it, to deal with it, to understand it. And so before we go, Kimberly, tell us about your book and about your class. And ladies, I want you to make sure that you grab this book for yourself and for your daughter, for your granddaughter, your niece, your goddaughter. Get the book. Go ahead, Kim.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. So, yes, I do have a program. Last year, I was able to just start a program for moms and daughters. You know what? The growing girl, because I'm a mom of a tween, and yes, like you, I needed that information as well. Because listen, growing up, I didn't get half of this. And so one of the
Mhm.
things I've created is a period tracker. It's a 3-year journal. It's what's happening inside of your body. The Growing Girl Period Tracker Tips and Journal. It's an amazing, amazing book. It's an amazing resource for moms who are starting this process with your daughters. It's a place for you to be able to track your daughter's symptoms. So she may say, Mom, I'm having some, let's just say, no, let me just give a recent example of that. I was at work, I'm a nurse, I was at work, and my daughter texts me, Mom, I don't think I'll be going to school tomorrow because my eyes are running and I'm stuffy nose. I know where her cycle, where she's in her cycle. And I also know the connection to estrogen in her cycle. And so it's to be able to have that conversation. It's to be able to, and this is why I love this critical community. And so the book can be found. Listen, you can chart anything, and it's all we can chart and relate and connect it to a menstrual cycle. Not just the mood part, which is also an important part of it, but any nausea. Mommy, I have some tummy pain, right? And even before she starts to see her cycle, you say, okay, do I need the book if she's not seen her period? Yeah, you can still use it. It's a good way of tracking when she has the headache,
Mm.
right? When she has the nausea, because unfortunately these things happen and we see it. We don't connect it to the cycle. So yes, you can get it on Amazon. If you're outside of Canada, you can get it at kimberlyyhap.com. If you're in Canada, you can also sign up on kimberlyyhap.com if you want to know more information about the Growing Girls event, as well as some of the other things that I do to help women. And so that's where you can find me on YouTube. You can find me as Kimberly Yhap. You can find me as Kimberly Yhap on Instagram, as well as on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. So Thank you very much for being here, for allowing me to be here, Coach Tashana.
Thank you so much. I'm excited. Y'all go and get the book and um, make sure that you not only watch all these videos, but share them, watch them with your daughter, and use it as an opportunity to create conversation. This is how we rethink madness. So, this is Mommy and Me on assignment. I am Tanysha Carroll, and I will see you again next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.